The cold emptiness of deep space stretched endlessly, a silent sea of stars that seemed to watch over all that drifted between them. Most ships passed by without notice, gliding along established trade routes, carrying passengers or cargo, their crews oblivious to the mysteries hiding in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. But for Jace Morlan, the empty sectors held opportunity, challenge, and the thrill of the unknown. Jace was a human mechanic, not an explorer, not a soldier, and certainly not someone aliens would ever take seriously. Yet his reputation among a small circle of scavengers had grown. He had a talent that even the most advanced AI could not match, an instinct for understanding machines, for seeing their potential beyond what manuals or alien schematics suggested. It was this talent that led him to a sector avoided by most starships, a place marked on old maps as the Graveyard of Titans. The graveyard was a myth to most. Massive warships, derelict cruisers, and long-dead freighters floated in silent orbit around shattered planetoids. No one dared to claim the area, not because of danger but because of superstition. Ships that ventured too far often returned missing critical systems, their crews shaken by strange malfunctions. Aliens believed it was cursed, humans dismissed it as coincidence. For Jace, it was exactly the kind of place where one could find treasure. He navigated his small, rugged craft through the debris field, sensors pinging off fragments of metal and scattered hulls. Most of the wrecks were centuries old, corroded by space radiation, with hulls fractured by collisions and long exposure to the vacuum. Jace's eyes, sharp from years of working in poorly lit workshops, caught a glimpse of something different. A massive shadow loomed beyond the craters of a shattered asteroid. Its edges were sharp, angular, and unmistakably designed, not natural. The starship was enormous. Its hull was cracked in places, but the overall shape suggested power, elegance, and advanced technology far beyond most civilizations today. Panels had fallen away, revealing alien machinery that even Jace could not fully comprehend at first glance. It was abandoned, forgotten, and waiting. "Jackpot," he muttered to himself, his fingers tightening around the controls. Most humans would have hesitated. The rumors about the Graveyard of Titans were enough to scare them away. But Jace had spent years restoring wrecks that others said were beyond repair. He thrived on challenges, and the larger the challenge, the more alive he felt. The ship he now faced was unlike anything he had ever seen, yet he could already imagine its potential. He docked carefully, the thrusters nudging his craft against the hull without causing damage. He suited up, double-checked his tools, and opened the airlock. The inside of the ship smelled of age, dust, and ozone. Lights flickered weakly as he stepped into a corridor, the floor groaning under his weight. Strange symbols decorated the walls, their meaning lost to time and human understanding. He moved slowly, examining panels, control consoles, and energy cores. Most systems were dead, but some responded faintly to his touch. Jace smiled, a mixture of excitement and curiosity lighting his face. Alien technology was complicated, yes, but the principles were often simple. Power flows, circuits, and mechanics obeyed rules, even if the designers had long vanished. Jace set up a portable interface device, connecting it to the ship's mainframe. Lights blinked, flickered, and then dimmed. A low hum vibrated through the hull. Something deep within the ship seemed to stir. Jace froze for a moment listening. There was no crew, no AI to speak of, yet the hum was alive. "Interesting," he whispered. "Still has juice somewhere." Hours passed as he explored the ship. He found the propulsion system, broken but repairable. He traced energy conduits, bypassing dead nodes and rerouting power to critical sections. He scanned the control bridge, noting which consoles were salvageable. Everything was old, some systems beyond what even the galaxy's advanced civilizations use today. Yet, there was genius in its design. Whoever had built this ship had poured thought and precision into every detail. Then, he found the weapon systems. Most were inactive, their power cores drained. Yet the design hinted at devastating capability. A single human could never operate all of it at once, but Jace's mind raced. With time, creativity, and his skill, he could integrate these systems in ways no alien had ever expected. As night fell, though in space, time felt arbitrary. Jace sat in the main corridor, legs stretched out, interface screens casting pale light on his face. The ship was quiet now, as if waiting. For the first time, he felt the weight of his discovery. Aliens would never have come here. They never expected a human to approach such a starship, let alone touch its systems. In their eyes, humans were weak, fragile, and incapable of complex thought. Jace had been underestimated, just as he often had been throughout his life. "Let's see what you can do," he said softly, almost to himself. He worked through the night, reconnecting circuits, cleaning damaged components, improvising tools where he lacked proper ones. Every connection he restored, every system he rebooted, felt like a small victory. The ship responded, hums growing louder, lights flickering with life, as if acknowledging its new caretaker. Somewhere deep in the graveyard, alien drones passed by the perimeter of his sector, scanning silently. Their sensors picked up life signs, energy signatures, and mechanical activity. Reports were sent to their fleets. Most aliens assumed it was a rogue salvage operation, harmless and insignificant. Few could imagine that a single human could restore a ship that dwarfed entire cruisers, a ship with technology that had been considered lost for centuries. Jace noticed the drones but didn't panic. He ducked behind structural supports, continuing his work while observing the alien machines. Every movement of theirs was predictable, designed by AI for efficiency and control. Humans, however, were unpredictable. Creativity, intuition, and risk-taking, things no machine could emulate, gave him the edge. He smiled to himself, knowing he was not just fixing a ship, he was turning legend into reality. By the second day, the ship's systems responded more reliably. Gravity stabilized, life support flickered on, and communication arrays emitted weak signals. Jace even managed to restore partial navigation functions. The ship was beginning to feel less like a dead relic and more like a living entity. He could almost sense its potential awakening, the possibility of power that had been dormant for centuries. He rested for a brief period, leaning against a console. His mind wandered to the galaxy outside. Entire civilizations had grown complacent, believing themselves superior. They had technology far advanced, fleets of ships, weapons capable of mass destruction. Yet here he was, a single human mechanic, reviving what they had long considered impossible. The first small test came unexpectedly. A panel in the engine room sparked and flared. Jace dived, reconnecting circuits with calm precision. As the sparks died, the engines thrummed softly, a vibration running through the hull. The starship was alive, not fully operational but alive. A thought struck him, a mix of awe and mischief. If humans could do this, imagine what else was possible. He grinned, thinking of modifications, improvements, and creative enhancements. No alien system had ever been designed for human unpredictability. That would be his advantage. As the first faint light of a distant star passed through the shattered windows, Jace sat on the bridge, surveying the vastness of space through the cracks in the hull. The graveyard of Titans was quiet, but he knew this calm would not last forever. The galaxy would eventually notice. Perhaps fleets would come. Perhaps the aliens would finally realize a human had dared touch what they had long abandoned. But for now, he had the ship. For now, he had control. And for the first time in centuries, the abandoned starship seemed to hum with life and purpose, waiting for a human mind to unlock its secrets. Jace leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. "Tomorrow," he said, "we see what you can really do." A low, resonant hum filled the ship, as if in agreement. The abandoned starship, long forgotten and written off by the galaxy, had a new master, and that master was human. The graveyard of Titans was silent once more, but a storm was coming, one that would shake the galaxy and show all civilizations the true potential of human ingenuity. The graveyard of Titans was quiet, but Jace Moreland did not feel alone. The abandoned starship now thrummed softly under his touch, its systems awakening piece by piece. Every hum, every flicker of light felt like a heartbeat. Jace had spent years restoring broken engines and derelict vessels, but this ship was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Its design was alien, vast, and intricate, yet he understood it in ways no alien could have predicted. He worked tirelessly. Days blurred into nights, though in space, time was meaningless. Jace bypassed damaged circuits, rerouted power through unconventional paths, and integrated human-made tools where alien components had failed. Every adjustment sparked a small victory. The starship's life support flickered on reliably, the engines purred with tentative power, and communication arrays buzzed faintly, searching for signals long forgotten. "Almost there," Jace muttered, tightening a bundle of wires that hummed under his hands. Just a little more. As he worked, small alien drones moved silently through the outer sectors, scanning for unusual energy signatures. They had detected the faint hum of life, but they assumed it was nothing more than a salvage operation, humans tinkering with a broken relic, incapable of understanding the alien technology they were touching. Most alien civilizations thought humans primitive, predictable, and weak. They never imagined a human capable of breathing life into a dead starship. The first real test came when Jace attempted to power the main engines. The system had been dormant for centuries, its core damaged and partially fused. No alien AI could have worked through the corruption without risk of total meltdown. But humans, particularly Jace, relied on intuition. He bypassed certain circuits, rerouted power through secondary nodes, and applied just the right amount of current. The engines groaned, a deep vibration running through the hull, then settled into a steady hum. Lights along the main corridor flickered in response. The ship had begun to awaken. Jace stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. He could feel it, the potential this starship held, not just as a vessel but as a weapon, a fortress, a symbol. He began experimenting. Alien ships were designed for precision and predictability. Jace, however, was unpredictable. He altered the ship's weapon systems, integrating them in ways no alien engineer had ever considered. He tested energy conduits and defensive shields, improvising modifications that allowed the starship to anticipate multiple threats at once. By the second day, the abandoned starship responded to his presence almost like it recognized him. Small panels adjusted automatically, power flowed smoothly through rerouted circuits, and the ship's sensors began scanning the surrounding sector. Jace realized that, while the ship lacked AI, it had an innate design that reacted intelligently to stimuli. With his guidance, it was beginning to regain its full potential. He smiled, thinking of the aliens who had abandoned this marvel. They believed it dead, useless, and beyond repair. But humans had something the aliens did not: creativity, resourcefulness, the ability to think outside rigid protocols. Meanwhile, the drones continued their silent surveillance. Back at their command stations, alien fleets received the reports. A human had entered the graveyard and was operating energy patterns that should have been impossible for someone of his species. The observers were puzzled. They had anticipated scavengers, maybe even reckless pilots, but never someone who could revive such a complex vessel. "Impossible," one officer whispered. "A human actually operating it." Jace, unaware of the attention, pressed on. He accessed the ship's weapon systems, ancient but formidable. Energy cannons, plasma turrets, and missile bays lined the corridors of the starship, dormant yet deadly. Most would have required an entire crew to operate efficiently. Jace, however, began integrating them with automated control loops that relied on his own improvisation, blending human intuition with alien engineering. Hours passed, and he tested the first subsystem, defensive shields. Alien design was logical but inflexible. Jace used asymmetrical power flows, tricking the system into reinforcing weak points faster than the original programming allowed. Sparks flew, lights flashed, and alarms briefly rang before settling. It worked. The Starship's shields were now adaptive, faster, and more responsive than they had ever been. "Not bad for a human," he muttered, grinning. Night, or what passed for night in the endless void, came again, but Jace refused to rest. He moved to the navigation systems, a tangle of circuits and alien programming languages. Humans were not supposed to understand it, yet Jace deciphered patterns, linking sensors and propulsion controls. With small tweaks, he allowed the ship to make independent movements, calculating trajectories and avoiding collisions. It was no AI, but it was responsive. It could react intelligently under human guidance. From the shadows of nearby asteroids, alien scouts observed his progress. Their data was inconclusive. A single human should have failed by now. The Starship should have rejected his interventions, systems overloaded and destroyed. Yet it continued to power on, responding to his touch. Reports were sent to higher command. "We may have underestimated humans," an officer finally admitted, though he did so reluctantly. By the third day, Jace had restored the communication array. Long-range signals pulsed into the void, searching for allies, data, or instructions. For fun, he broadcasted a faint signal, encrypted in a pattern no alien fleet would immediately recognize. He wanted to see if the ship's systems could handle a real-world test. The result was immediate. Sensors flared, power conduits adjusted, and the ship shifted slightly, evading hypothetical threats even before they arrived. Jace paused to watch. The abandoned Starship was no longer just a derelict. It was a living, breathing weapon, its power limited only by his imagination and skill. The more he worked, the more the vessel seemed to respond, almost as if it understood that humans were the key to unlocking its potential. But restoration was only half the challenge. Jace needed to test the ship's agility, its capacity to defend itself, and the effectiveness of its weapons. He began simulations, small at first, dodging floating debris, redirecting energy to reinforce shields, rerouting power to different engines. The Starship adapted quickly, faster than Jace expected. He laughed aloud. "Not bad, old girl, not bad at all." Meanwhile, alien fleets grew uneasy. They had watched humans for centuries, noting their resilience, adaptability, and stubbornness. But this was different. A single human was tampering with technology beyond human comprehension and achieving success. Their predictions, their data, their understanding, all had failed. One fleet commander muttered to herself, "If that human finishes restoring that ship, we could be in real trouble." Jace, oblivious to the worry he had caused, pushed further. He began testing weapon systems, carefully activating plasma turrets one by one. Small energy pulses fired into empty space, hitting asteroids and floating debris. Every system responded perfectly, but the true potential was not in raw firepower. It was in integration. Jace had designed controls so the ship could coordinate its weapons automatically, reacting to threats before the operator even perceived them. This combination of human improvisation and alien engineering created a synergy the galaxy had never seen. The abandoned Starship was no longer just a relic. It was evolving, improving, and becoming something more than its original design. Late into the fourth day, Jace paused, leaning against a console. He surveyed the ship's systems and smiled. The engines were fully operational, shields adaptive, weapons functional, and sensors responsive. In just a few days, he had accomplished what entire alien fleets had believed impossible. Then he heard the subtle vibrations in the hull, distant, faint, but unmistakable. Alien drones had approached closer, curious and cautious. They scanned, recorded, and transmitted their observations, but they could not understand what they were witnessing. A single human had restored a starship that could rival their fleets. Jace ignored them. There was no need for confrontation yet. His plan was simple: continue the restoration, strengthen the ship, and prepare for whatever the galaxy might throw at him. Humans were clever, and he had the advantage of unpredictability. Aliens could predict patterns, but humans created them. As he settled in for another long cycle of work, Jace allowed himself a moment of reflection. The galaxy saw humans as fragile, inconsequential. They had dismissed him and his kind for centuries. Yet here he was, restoring a starship of unimaginable power, preparing it for a future no one had anticipated. Tomorrow, he would test the ship's maneuverability. The day after, he would push its systems to the limit. And eventually, when the galaxy noticed, he would be ready. The abandoned starship, long ignored and written off, now thrummed with latent power. Under the guidance of a human mechanic, it was awakening, and the galaxy had no idea that a storm was forming. Jace sat on the bridge, staring into the endless void. A grin spread across his face. "Let them come," he said softly. "We're ready." Somewhere distant and unseen, alien fleets shifted uneasily. They had expected an abandoned ship, a human scavenger, and a minor annoyance. What they did not expect was the awakening of something far greater, a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology that no one could control. The first move in a silent chess game had been made. The abandoned starship was alive, and its master was human. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimation was a mistake it could not afford. The abandoned starship had awakened. Its systems hummed with renewed energy, shields glowed faintly along the hull, and its engines purred with latent power. Jace Moreland stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning readouts and displays, calculating the next steps. The ship was operational, but no human or alien could predict the limits of its capabilities. Not yet. As he prepared for the first real test, distant flashes of light appeared on the long-range sensors. Alien scouts had returned, this time in force. Small fleets, sleek and deadly, moved through the graveyard, searching for the source of the energy spikes they had detected days earlier. They were cautious but confident. After all, the galaxy had assumed humans could never handle a ship like this. Jace watched the approaching ships calmly. His heart raced, yes, but not with fear, excitement. This was what he had been preparing for. The aliens would assume their technology and numbers gave them an edge. They would underestimate him. They would be wrong. He activated the main engines, feeling the vibration through the bridge floor. The ship responded instantly, as if it knew the challenge that lay ahead. Jace had rerouted the weapon systems to integrate with the sensors, shields, and engines. Every move he made would trigger a chain reaction, a feedback loop that allowed the ship to react faster than any alien AI expected. The first scouts approached. Their energy pulses scanned the area, attempting to locate the starship. Jace remained silent, his hands steady on the controls. He had learned from studying alien designs. They valued logic and predictability. He would exploit both. With a flick of his wrist, he activated a small decoy signal from the ship's communication array. It mimicked the energy signature of a larger fleet, making the scouts hesitate. The aliens misinterpreted the readings, slowing their advance to investigate. The abandoned starship moved silently, weaving between asteroid fragments, avoiding detection while gathering data on the approaching vessels. Then Jace made his move. Energy cannons along the hull powered up, plasma weapons aligning automatically with the sensors. He didn't fire immediately. Instead, he tested one scout, sending a small plasma pulse that hit it perfectly, disabling its engines without destroying the ship. The other scouts registered the damage and attempted evasive maneuvers, but the ship's targeting systems were too fast, too adaptive. A second pulse disabled another scout. The aliens were confused. Their calculations did not account for this level of unpredictability. A human had turned an abandoned vessel into a weapon capable of evading, outthinking, and disabling alien ships with minimal effort. Jace's grin widened. "You're learning fast," he said to the ship. "Let's see how you handle more." He pushed the engines harder, weaving the ship in impossible arcs around the asteroid field. Plasma fire followed, targeting the aliens with precision. Every shot was calculated, yet unpredictable in its timing and trajectory. The scouts, designed to anticipate logic, could not adapt fast enough. One by one, they were disabled, their engines flaring before shutting down completely. From orbit above, alien fleets received the reports in shock. Humans were always resilient, yes, but a single human operating a starship that could neutralize multiple scouts without loss was beyond comprehension. Fleets shifted nervously, reevaluating the threat. Jace paused for a moment, catching his breath. The scouts had been neutralized and the abandoned starship floated silently, shields shimmering in the dim light. Yet he knew the real challenge was coming. The main fleet would arrive soon, and they would not be so easily fooled. The first major assault came within hours. Dozens of alien ships surrounded the graveyard, attempting to trap Jace's vessel. They fired energy beams, missiles, and automated drones, coordinating their attacks with precision. Most humans would have panicked. Jace did not. He had anticipated this. The ship systems were now fully integrated. Weapons, shields, engines, and sensors worked together in a complex feedback loop that even alien AIs could not predict. He maneuvered the ship with skill born from instinct and experience, dodging attacks while simultaneously returning fire. Energy shields flared, deflecting beams that would have destroyed most cruisers. Plasma turrets tracked multiple targets at once, firing with unpredictable intervals. Missiles were intercepted mid-flight, destroyed by automated defenses or redirected using creative engineering Jace had improvised. The aliens, confident in their superiority, were stunned. Their algorithms failed to account for the human factor, the creativity, intuition, and adaptability of Jace. Every attack they launched was met with countermeasures they had never anticipated. Jace laughed aloud, a mixture of joy and adrenaline. "Come on, try harder." The battle escalated. Asteroids became cover, traps, and weapons. Jace lured some alien ships into collisions, redirected energy beams to strike multiple targets, and used decoy signals to scatter their formation. The abandoned starship moved like a predator, precise yet unpredictable, lethal yet controlled. Amid the chaos, Jace realized something important. This ship was not just a weapon, it was an extension of himself. His instincts, his creativity, and his understanding of machinery had become part of the ship's systems. It responded to him, anticipated his thoughts, and executed maneuvers that no human or alien could have planned in advance. The tide of battle began to turn. Alien ships that had once been confident and coordinated now moved erratically, struggling to respond. They underestimated a human's ability to adapt and improvise, to turn a derelict vessel into a machine of war. Then came the moment of the turning point. A squadron of alien cruisers attempted to flank the starship, firing a barrage of missiles designed to overwhelm its defenses. Jace acted instinctively. He rerouted power to engines, accelerated past the missile paths, and activated the energy cannons. The missiles detonated harmlessly against asteroid fragments while the plasma beams tore through the flankers' hulls, disabling them completely. The alien fleet commander stared at the display, disbelief written across her face. "Impossible," she whispered. "A single human, he's defeating our fleet." Jace didn't pause. He continued his assault, pushing the abandoned starship to its limits. Shields glowed brighter, engines roared as the vessel weaved through space like a living creature. Every system worked in perfect harmony, responding to his commands and improvisation. The aliens had never faced anything like this. Their tactics, strategies, and technology were useless against the unpredictable combination of human ingenuity and alien engineering. By the end of the engagement, the alien fleet had suffered significant losses. Several cruisers were disabled, their weapons offline, while the rest retreated in confusion and fear. The graveyard of Titans was quiet once more, the abandoned starship floating among the wrecks, victorious and intact. Jace exhaled, leaning against the bridge console. Sweat and grime coated his face, but his eyes sparkled with triumph. He had done the impossible. A human, alone, had turned an abandoned alien starship into a force that could challenge entire fleets. The galaxy, if it had been watching closely, would have trembled. The aliens would rethink their assumptions about humans, their supposed weakness, and their predictability. Humans were resilient, resourceful, and capable of things no one had imagined. For now, though, Jace allowed himself a moment of rest. The abandoned starship hummed quietly beneath him, shields glowing faintly, engines idling. It was alive, powerful, and under human control. Tomorrow, he would continue improvements. He would explore the full potential of the ship systems, refine its weapons, and prepare for the inevitable return of the alien fleets. They would come back, stronger and more prepared, but Jace was ready. Humans thrived under challenges, and he had proven that even against superior technology, intelligence, creativity, and intuition could prevail. As he gazed out at the graveyard of Titans, scattered with wrecks and remnants of ancient civilizations, Jace smiled. "We're just getting started," he said softly. "Let them come. They'll learn the hard way what humans are capable of." Somewhere beyond the asteroid fields, alien fleets communicated in urgent signals. Commanders debated strategies, recalculating odds and probabilities. None of them could account for the unpredictable element, a human who could outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight their most advanced technology. Jace turned back to the bridge, hands resting on the controls. The abandoned starship had passed its first test. It had survived, adapted, and dominated, and it was only the beginning. The galaxy was changing. Humans were no longer insignificant. Under Jace's guidance, they could rise, evolve, and redefine what was possible. And the abandoned starship, once forgotten and abandoned, would be the symbol of that change, a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and power. The storm was coming, and this time the galaxy would see humans not as prey but as predators. The graveyard of Titans, once a silent grave of forgotten ships, now thrummed with life. The abandoned starship floated among the wrecks, its hull gleaming faintly as energy flowed through restored systems. Jace Moreland stood on the bridge, eyes bright with anticipation. The ship was no longer just a relic. It was a weapon, a fortress, and a symbol of human ingenuity. Alien fleets had begun to notice. Reports of the starship's capabilities had reached multiple civilizations. Many dismissed it at first, just one human. Surely, the rest of humanity could not match such skill. But now they could no longer ignore the growing threat. The humans had taken what was abandoned, old, and forgotten, and turned it into something that rivaled the most advanced vessels in the galaxy. Jace had spent weeks refining the systems, improving shields, integrating weapons, and enhancing sensors. The starship had become fully operational, capable of reacting faster than any alien AI, predicting threats in real time, and executing maneuvers that no one had thought possible. And now, the final test was at hand. Long-range sensors detected a fleet approaching, dozens of alien warships, each heavily armed, coordinated, and confident. They expected a single human to be no more than a nuisance, but Jace had learned the value of surprise. He activated the ship's stealth systems, allowing it to blend into the shadows of the asteroid field. Energy signatures were masked, and the ship became almost invisible to sensors. "Time to see how far we've come," Jace said softly. The first wave of alien scouts moved in, scanning the area, attempting to locate the ship. Jace waited patiently, studying their patterns. Then, with a flick of his hand, the abandoned starship struck. Energy cannons fired in rapid succession, disabling multiple scouts before the main fleet even knew what had happened. Missiles were intercepted or redirected, plasma beams tore through cruisers, and the ship's maneuverability left the aliens stunned. They had underestimated humans. They had assumed logic and numbers were enough. But humans had creativity, intuition, and adaptability, and Jace had combined them perfectly with the ancient technology of the Starship. The main alien fleet, realizing their scouts were destroyed, launched a coordinated assault. Ships moved in formation, energy beams cutting through space, missiles streaking toward the abandoned starship. But Jace was ready. He activated the full power of the shields, redirecting energy to weak points, reinforcing sections under fire. Engines roared as the ship weaved through space, dodging attacks that should have been unavoidable. Plasma turrets fired automatically, tracking multiple targets at once, while energy cannons struck with precision. Each attack by the aliens was met with a countermeasure they had not anticipated. "This is what they never expected," Jace whispered. "Humans adapt." The battle raged. Asteroids became cover, weapons became traps, and the abandoned starship moved like a predator, striking, dodging, and dominating. Alien commanders tried to adapt, reconfiguring their formations, but every strategy failed. The humans' unpredictability was overwhelming. Jace had integrated every system to work together. Shields, weapons, engines, and sensors formed a single network, responding faster than any alien could calculate. The ship's movement was fluid, almost alive, guided by human intuition. Every shot, every maneuver was part of a pattern only a human mind could create. The aliens realized too late that brute force alone could not overcome creativity. The fleet commander's face turned pale as multiple cruisers were disabled, their weapons offline, their formations broken. They had relied on technology and numbers, but a single human had turned their greatest advantages into weaknesses. Jace pushed further. The ship moved at impossible speeds, firing plasma and energy pulses that tore through alien hulls. Missiles collided with shields and asteroids, detonating harmlessly, while the ship's systems rerouted energy to critical points. Each maneuver was unpredictable yet precise, a perfect combination of strategy and improvisation. By the time the battle ended, the alien fleet was in disarray. Dozens of ships were disabled, while others retreated in confusion and fear. The abandoned starship floated victorious, shields intact, engines humming, weapons ready. It had survived, adapted, and dominated, a testament to human ingenuity and skill. Jace stood on the bridge, hands on the console, eyes surveying the aftermath. Sweat and grime coated his face, but his grin was wide and confident. "We did it," he said softly. "We've proven them wrong. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again." Alien civilizations, who had once dismissed humanity as weak and insignificant, would now regard them with caution, respect, and perhaps fear. One human had restored a ship abandoned for centuries and used it to defeat a superior fleet. What could an entire species accomplish? Jace did not wait for the answer. He activated long-range sensors, scanning for other threats, other fleets, and other opportunities. The ship responded instantly, analyzing potential targets, calculating trajectories, and preparing countermeasures. Humans were underestimated for a reason. They had been overlooked, written off, but now they were rising. In orbit above a shattered moon, Jace took a moment to reflect. The abandoned starship had been a relic, forgotten and ignored. He had breathed life into it, turned it into a weapon, and shown the galaxy the power of human ingenuity. Every system, every weapon, every maneuver had been guided by a human mind, a reminder that creativity, adaptability, and intelligence were the ultimate advantages. From distant systems, alien communications buzzed with fear and confusion. Commanders debated strategies, recalculated odds, and realized they had misjudged humans for centuries. The legend of the human mechanic and the abandoned starship spread like wildfire. It was not just a story of survival, it was a story of dominance, of creativity triumphing over assumed superiority. Jace, however, remained focused. The ship was ready for whatever came next. He had improved weapons systems, reinforced shields, and optimized engines. Every day brought new upgrades, new tactics, and new understanding. The abandoned starship was no longer just a machine. It was a testament to human resilience, a symbol of power born from skill and ingenuity. He activated the ship's communications array, sending a message into the void, not a declaration of war but a statement of presence. Humans are here. We are capable. Underestimate us at your peril. The message traveled across the stars, reaching alien fleets, trading civilizations, and neutral systems. Everywhere it went, it sparked curiosity, fear, and respect. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, a human restoring and commanding a starship capable of challenging entire fleets. Jace watched the stars, thinking of what lay ahead. The abandoned starship had passed every test, defeated superior forces, and proven the potential of humans. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, opportunities, and mysteries waiting to be discovered. But one thing was certain: humans were no longer to be underestimated. One human had changed the balance of power, and the abandoned starship had become the ultimate weapon, not just of destruction but of possibility. Jace leaned back, allowing himself a moment of satisfaction. He had taken something abandoned, ignored, and forgotten, and turned it into a force that could not be ignored. And the galaxy, for the first time, had seen the full measure of human ingenuity. As the stars shimmered beyond the shattered moon, Jace spoke softly to the ship, almost as if it could hear him. "We're ready. Whatever comes, we'll handle it, together." The ship hummed, engines idling, shields glowing faintly, a silent acknowledgement of the bond between human and machine. The abandoned starship, restored and transformed, had become more than a weapon. It had become a legend, and the galaxy would never forget it. The storm had arrived, and humanity, guided by a single mechanic, had emerged victorious.